My name is Asia Sampson, and today on Baptism Overland, we are going to install brake line anchor kits and ask the question, do you need one? So today I'm doing the kind of simple modification that I normally would not be doing a video for. Normally when I do something simple on a Jeep like this, I just don't even waste my time trying to create content for it because there's not really much to it, and this is one of those projects. But the reason why I decided to make a video for it was because I just learned about these this last weekend when I got the Jeep lifted, and I realized that there are a lot of people who are probably going to lift their vehicles and not even know that these exist or don't even know that they need them. But before we get into that though, let me show you the moment I realized I needed these.
You want me to put your brake line back where it was in that mount?
Should we see first?
Well, no, and I'll tell you why. Either I need to put it on the outside of your shock and let it loose, or I need to mount it now.
Now, yeah, I get what you're saying.
I'm telling you right now, it's going to be tight. Doing it here, it's already pulling on this, just sitting here.
Yeah, I know, right?
So I would recommend, I'll take this off and then I put this on the outside of the shock. This will still be on there for now, and we'll just have to work on getting that off later.
Okay, so what is a brake line anchor kit anyway? Simply put, it's just an anchor that will relocate your brake line and ABS lines. Now, why would you need to do that? Okay, so imagine your Jeep. There's the body of your vehicle and there are your wheels. Running from the body of your vehicle to your wheels are brake and ABS lines. And here, I will use this hose to demonstrate. On a stock Jeep, one that you haven't modified, those lines are perfectly fine. They go from the body of the vehicle to your brake calipers, and they're routed something like this, right? And it's okay. You won't have any problems. You'll articulate and the lines won't be bothered at all. You have enough play. But the moment you start to lift the body of the vehicle or add bigger tires, then the further and further you are pulling the body of the vehicle away from the wheels. So as you see, the lines start to become taut. And now you are not having enough slack for when you start to articulate. You're basically going to tug it, and at some point, you might just snap it off. If you're going to do an extreme lift, like 6 inches, 7 inches, you're getting huge tires, these brake line anchor kits are not going to help you. You're going to need to get longer brake lines in order to have that play back. Because the one thing you don't want to do is snap those lines off. If, however, you're just going to do a moderate lift, moderate larger tires like I did, 33s on a 2.5-inch lift, then you still have enough play on the lines. They're not going to be super taut. There is a caveat. The way they're routed right now on the vehicle, they go from the body of the vehicle down, and then there's the shock, and then there's your brake calipers. So they kind of fall like this. And because they fall this way, you're already eating up a lot of that room. So if you saw my video, Chris asked me, do you want me to put this on the inside? Or I would recommend putting it on the outside of the shock. Because once we take it to the outside of the shock, then you get some of that play back. The only problem now is though, you can no longer mount this in the same exact position where it was before. It used to be mounted right inside the shock and it was perfect in there. But now that you have to take that bracket off, you now have dangling brake and ABS lines floating right behind your shock. So what you do is you end up getting something like this, which is your brake line anchor kit that you mount to the shock or to basically anywhere inside your wheel well that can hold it. And then you can mount your ABS and your brake lines inside it like this. See? And it holds it in place so that it won't be knocking up on anything. Now, the ones I got are the ones made by TerraFlex, and they're relatively cheap. I believe these were like $25 or so. So it's not like an expensive upgrade. You can just pick up a couple of these. But in retrospect, I'm looking at them now and I'm like, I probably could have DIY'd my own. Even something that held the original brackets. But you know what? I didn't want to have to take more time on this than I needed to and DIY something. And since they're only 25 bucks and that's how much it might have cost me in materials anyway, I just bought them. Make it simple on yourself. It comes with these two brackets and some zip ties. And that's it. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and mount this on the Jeep. Like I said, it's a super simple process, I'm hoping, and not run into any problems, but it should be pretty straightforward. But I'm hoping that it is helpful enough for you in case this is something that you might need. And I think these will also kind of clean up that area a little bit and make the cables and the lines just look a little bit cleaner and more meant to be there and not just kind of dangling all over the place. But I'll show you what I mean. Let's go do it. This is what I was talking about earlier. Here's your shock. Here's your brake and ABS lines. On a stock Jeep, this bracket right here is mounted to this hole right there. If you don't modify your Jeep, it's totally fine. It's actually the best place to put it because it's out of the way. But once you start to lift the body of this vehicle further away from this axle, you now start to pull on this line. You can no longer mount this in there because it just becomes too short that you won't be able to articulate. So what we do in this situation is we put it to the outside of the shock so that we get more of this free play. Only problem with that now is that this, with the bracket being on, continues to knock up against the shock, and I think I'm already starting to dent it. You don't want it just being out here floating around like this and just kind of flopping around. So what we do is I'm going to take this new brake line anchor kit. It gets mounted to the shock like this, and then these lines will now fall on here and it'll hold that in place there, nice and clean. The only challenge I'm going to have is trying to remove this bracket right here, which everywhere you look, everyone, and I mean everyone, has had a hard time with this bracket, just trying to remove it, because if you can see, the brake line is just crimped in there. I'm going to do something here, but let me explain what's happening. I'm going to try and create just a score with this blade. You have to be surgeon-like and very, very careful that you don't nick your brake line with this. I am not going to go all the way down. That's not the plan. I am not going to go all the way down to my brake line. I'm going to go just enough so that I can have some play to bend it backwards. So again, when you do this, please be sure you are super careful. So I cut into it without going deep at all. I don't know if that's going to be enough to bend this back, but let's find out. We're going to kind of just have to work it as best as we could. All right, so check it out. After working at it and kind of weakening this, I was able to finally pull the bracket off. It wasn't even as hard as I thought it was going to be, but it's out. Here's a thing that I may or may not want to recommend to you guys. I used an angle grinder, but you have to be, and I repeat this, extremely careful to not go all the way through. You want to do this just enough to get some play and weaken this crimp, and then you can kind of bend it back, because you do not want to nick your brake lines. I repeat, do not nick your brake lines unless you feel like turning this modification into a 2 or 3 day mod. So here it is. It's finally out. Use this a little bit just to weaken it, and then I used my pry bar and some vice grips and was able to just work it out of there. So now let's go ahead and install the other parts. All right, so let me remove these old clips because these won't go back to where they came from before. So I can just go ahead and cut them off, clean it up. There we go. You don't need to take the shock off. You just need to take this one bolt off in the front. Super simple enough. And now we put the Terraflex on here. Which way do I want it to look like? Just like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the ABS line in because there's a notch for that in there, and then go ahead and put the brake line in there as well. They actually made notches into the Terraflex one to allow you to put zip ties on them and keep that thing closed and not coming out. That's it. There it is. Secure. Lines are secure. There you go. See how clean it is? And now it won't knock up. This is in place just right. Probably tighten it up just a little bit more, but for the most part, I'm done. All right, so that's it. I finished up on this side, cleaned everything up, locked everything up, put the tire back on, lowered it back down, and then tightened it to spec. Now I'm just gonna go over to the other side and basically repeat the same process, but I won't bore you with that. I just wanted to show you that this is a pretty simple install, and it does clean up that area a lot. It just organizes all the ABS and brake lines, makes it look a lot nicer, and now you don't have those lines just flopping around all over the place. Only hard part, again, was trying to get that bracket off, but once I kind of used the angle grinder just a little bit, I was able to bend it back, and it was simple after that. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and make sure to also follow us on Instagram at Baptism Overland. My name is Asia Sampson, and I'm gonna go get back to work. I'll see you guys next time.
GoPro, stop recording. GoPro, stop recording. Dang it!